is Ashura in the Karbala. It is Ashura in the Karbala. See the pain, see the pain, see the pain, see the pain. Oh Hussein, you made a call on Ashura, called out Al min Nasirin yansuruna. Oh Hussein, you made a call on Ashura, called out Al min Nasirin yansuruna. Here we are in answer to you, O Imam, to spread and promote to others pure Islam.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيدوا لك كيدا إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين. The first of our salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. The second in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. Allahumma salli Muhammad. The third with your loudest voices in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The discussion concerning the relationship of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam with his brothers is one of the most fascinating discussions within the Holy Quran, and a discussion which requires an in-depth examination, for it is a discussion which affects each and every one of our lives. A discussion from which many a lesson may be learnt, and indeed many an example may be derived. For indeed the story of Prophet Yusuf is seen as arguably the greatest story within the Holy Quran. And indeed the discussion concerning the relationship between Prophet Yusuf and his brothers allows us to dissect the importance of family relations within the religion of Islam. As we know, the religion of Islam promulgates an important central tenet, that being known as Salat al-Rahim. Salat al-Rahim is the idea that I seek to enjoin relations with my womb relatives, my own flesh and blood. Those who are members of my family, I seek to protect them, I seek to look after their honor, I seek to be united with them. As in, you find the religion of Islam always highlights that he who shows mercy to his family will be shown mercy by Allah on the day of judgment. But he who shows disrespect to his family will not receive the mercy of Allah on the day of judgment. And indeed you find that whenever you examine the Holy Quran, you'll find that every prophet of God is mentioned alongside his family. As in, when you look at all the prophets, There isn't a prophet of God, but that Allah mentions them alongside their family. Adam is mentioned alongside Habil and Qabil and Eve. Nuh is mentioned alongside his wife and his children. Ibrahim is mentioned alongside his wives and his children. Musa is mentioned alongside his wife, for example. Jesus is mentioned alongside his mother. You find likewise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the story of Prophet Yaqub and Yusuf mentions the relationship of the family here. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to show us even the greatest men who walked on this earth were tested with their family. As in, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to highlight that there isn't a single person on this earth but that we test them. Some we test them with wealth, some we test them with health, some we test them with their education, and some we decide to test with their family. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala narrates to us the story of Prophet Yusuf and his brothers, the aim was what? The aim was to highlight to us that don't come to me and say that you were never tested with, why were you tested with your family? There were men who were prophets of God who I even gave a test with their families as well. Because sometimes someone may argue a prophet of God is a perfect being, as in Allah would never test them. On the contrary, a prophet of God is like me and you. In the same way we're tested, they are tested as well. And the reason Allah shows us their tests is to ask us, the way those prophets replied back to their families when their families were rude to them, have you replied with their syllabus or not? As in, we have to ask ourselves the question that a prophet of God, the way he reacted to a family member, when he reacted in that way, did I react in the same way when I was faced with the same trial? Or did I react in a different way? If I reacted in a different way, then have I truly honored the message of those prophets? Because today in our communities, you may find in the same family, in exactly the same family, two brothers who at a young age loved each other, were the best of friends, would defend each other, would protect each other. Today in the mosques, they hate each other. And how many of you have uncles who don't get along with your dad? It's your dad's brother, but they don't speak to each other. You ask yourself, Dad, hold on, why don't you get along with my uncle? You wonder that these two are blood brothers, surely they should be getting along with each other. And you find out that the case sometimes is because of money, sometimes because of inheritance issues, sometimes because of mothers and fathers. You find therefore that today in Muslim communities, this issue is a prevalent issue. How many of us have seen our dads not speak to their brothers, or our mums not speak to their sisters? And when you come to it, you ask yourself, a religion like the religion of Islam, which promoted the importance of family relations, how did we reach a level where family members were willing to be like this with each other? Therefore, let's dissect the story of Yusuf with his brothers in the following stages. Number one, why did God reveal the chapter of Yusuf to the Prophet in so much depth? Number two, what was the role of the father of Yusuf at the beginning? And how important is it that a father recognizes that his children are not all the same and that he needs to maintain unity between them? Number three, what is the disease that destroys relations between blood brothers? And how do we eradicate this disease from our life? Number four, how did Prophet Yusuf react to his brothers at the end? Did he open the door of forgiveness or not? Number five, which other brothers in Islam faced the same issue? And what was the reason they faced this issue? And number six, which brothers on the 10th of Muharram all sacrificed their life for Abu Abdullah? Let's examine this and seek to dissect the topic in depth. As we know, the story of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam is seen as the greatest story in the Quran. The question arises, why was this story revealed? As in, the Quran doesn't just come up with any verse. The Quran, when it gives you a chapter, there has to be a reason. The Jews used to come to the polytheists in Arabia. The Jews would come to the polytheists and they say to them, if this Muhammad thinks of himself as a prophet, go and test him. The polytheists would say, what do you mean? They'd say that Muhammad is telling the people he's a prophet of God. There are certain prophets who came before him who are real prophets. Whereas he is what? He's a false prophet. The polytheists looked at them and they said, how can you prove that he's a false prophet? The Jews said, well, the real prophets are Moses, Joseph, Jacob, Abraham. This man's a false Messiah. He's conning his people into believing that he's actually real. Actually, he's got a message from God. So the polytheists looked at them and they said, how can we disprove him? So the Jews said, ask him a question and I'm telling you that he'll never know the answer. The polytheists said, what's the question? The reply was, ask him, what was the migration that took place involving the children of Israel in the lands of Egypt and Syria? When they went to the Prophet, these polytheists came, they said, Muhammad, you claim to be a prophet of God? He said, go ahead, ask me whatever you want to ask me. They said to him, what is the story of the migration of the children of Israel? And what was involved in the lands of Egypt and Syria? Normally Rasulullah would reply with one answer or with one verse. Whereas with this, he replied with the whole story of their migration. The whole story, Allah revealed to him, I don't want you just to give them one verse. I want you to tell them inside out what happened in the migration of the children of Israel. Someone says, well, how does Yaqub and Yusuf relate to the children of Israel? Because Yaqub's original name is Israel. So his children are called what? The children of Israel. Nabi Yaqub is Israel. His sons are the children of Israel. Therefore, when Rasulullah answered the question, Rasulullah answered the question in complete depth. And that's why you find Rasulullah, when he answered this question, it's not surprising that this story of Prophet Yusuf was made into a film recently, I tell you. Because the number of lessons that emerge from this one story is quite phenomenal. As in, if you're young, you can relate to it. If you're old, you can relate to it. If you're religious, you can relate to it. If you're not religious, you can relate to it. If you're knowledgeable, you can relate. If you're not that knowledgeable, you can relate. Everybody can relate to the story. Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam had 4 wives. From those 4 wives, he had 12 children. Of these children, what do you find? Of these children, he had 2 children who belonged to the same father, but a different mother to the rest. What was their name? One was called Yusuf and the other was called Benjamin. Hence you find many of these names which we find in our communities today, Joseph, Benjamin, these are all originally biblical names. As in anyone who you hear is called Benjamin or Joseph, these are all from the Bible and from the Quran. You find that what happened was, these 2 were always together. Their mother was different to the mothers of the rest. Nabi Yaqub, from the beginning, he recognized, like any father, that our children are like the fingers on our hands. Are the fingers on our hands all the same? No. Likewise, our children are not all the same. He noticed that Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam had knowledge which these others didn't have. As he noticed a special quality in Nabi Yusuf. Which quality? The quality of interpreting dreams, and therefore the fact that he is a prophet of God. What do I mean? You see, Nabi Yaqub, when Nabi Yusuf comes to him and says, Ya abati inni ra'aytu ahada ashara kawkaban wal shamsa wal qamara li sajidin. When he says, I saw the sun and the moon and all of them prostrating before me. When he said ra'aytuhum li sajidin, what did he mean? He indicated within his interpretation of the dream that he was not just a man who knew about dreams. He was a young man who was a prophet of God. Someone says, how do you know? Because Nabi Yaqub asked himself the question, celestial bodies like planets, the sun and the moon, you don't normally say, you know what, I can see them, it looks like they're doing sujood tonight. Nobody normally says that. Why? Sujood is an act of the inanimate. Sujood is the act of the animate. These celestial bodies were seen as inanimate. Meaning what? Meaning that sujood is the act of a human being. When Nabi Yusuf said, I see them prostrating, Nabi Yaqub knew he's a prophet. Because while he's saying his dream, he's giving the tafsir of the dream. Isn't it? He could have easily said, I see the sun, I see the moon, I see the stars, and they're in a position which is like bowing. No. He said, I see them prostrating before me. Meaning that I'm not just going to tell you my dream, Dad. I'm actually going to tell you what's going to happen with you and my family later. As soon as Nabi Yaqub heard this, Nabi Yaqub did something which is vital of any father to make sure his sons don't have a problem like what we see in communities today. What is it? Nabi Yaqub straight away realized, and he said to him, قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك. Oh my son, do not tell this dream and its interpretation to your brothers. What did Nabi Yaqub realize here? Nabi Yaqub realized from the beginning that when I see my sons are different in their attributes, I need to make sure from the beginning that I give them a warning about how to behave with each other. You see, today when you see a grandfather who's alive and his sons are hating each other, you'll find on many occasions that that grandfather will say, I knew these two were never going to get on, but I never spoke about it early. As in the role of a father, what is it? When I see one of my sons is arrogant and another is stubborn and another is humble, I need from a young age to bring all three of them together. Not from an old age, from a young age. I need to bring them. I need to say to them that you, the humble one, this one, he can be difficult. Please remain humble with him. You, the arrogant one, you can be a bit harsh in your wording. Try and be soft with this one. You, the one, for example, who's stubborn, try and be open-minded with your brothers. A father from the outset, when he sees his children are different, should not wait until all of these get married. No. From the beginning, he has to bring these sons. Come here, all three of you. You're like this, you're like this, you're like this. I'm not going to favor any of you, no. But one thing I want to tell you is I never want to see you disunite from each other. I want to see you in unison with one another, because we know very well that sometimes when a father remains silent, then you'll find inevitably one son is going to exploit the other. You find that Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam straight away realized that, you know what, my son, I know how these other brothers are. I expect you not to open your mouth on this issue. Someone accuses Nabi Yaqub of favoritism. You see, there are some schools of tafsir which say Nabi Yaqub had favoritism to Yusuf, and because of that Allah looked down on him. Not at all, no. You see, as a father, there is a favoritism which is positive and a favoritism which is negative. What do we mean? If my favoritism towards my son is because my son is wealthier than the others or better looking than the others, that favoritism is wrong. That favoritism Islam does not allow. If my favoritism or my respect to the son is because of his knowledge and his piety in the path of Allah, then definitely I should show warmth to that son more than the other. Someone says, how? Just because he's more religious? No, not just because he's more religious. I want the other sons to see how respected they should be when they are on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nabi Yaqub wasn't saying my other sons are bad. No. Nabi Yaqub was saying that this son Yusuf, his closeness to Allah means that he deserves respect. If I have sons, two of them are religious, two of them aren't. Should I hate them? No, I shouldn't. But the two who are religious definitely deserve reverence in my house. Why? Because I want the other two to look at what respect should be given to someone of knowledge. Therefore, what did he do? He highlighted to us, try your hardest with your sons from the outset to make sure that there is a unison between them. And that's why many of the maraja, before they die, many of the scholars, before they die, they write a wasiyah, a will. One will which they write is a will about their possessions. Another will which they write is a will about, for example, donation. Then there's a third will which many maraja write. What is it? The will about the advice they give their sons and their daughters. And do you know why the maraja do that? Because psychologically, a son or daughter, their heart breaks if they found out their dad before they died wrote saying, please never disunite. Never. My love of my life is if all of you remain united. How many of you, before your dad died, how many of you remember your dad saying, please remain united with each other? I beg you, don't break the family. I beg you, for the sake of family united, isn't it? Yet there are some, when they die, don't act like Nabi Yaqub. Nabi Yaqub from the beginning. Yusuf, come here. Come here. Don't open your mouth on this issue. Why? Your brothers, yakidu laka kaida. They'll plot a plot against you. And then what does he say? Inna shaytana lil insani aduwwun mubin. Because do you know who will break you guys apart? Not the community. Shaitan will start whispering whispers and destroy you. You find what? Many, before they pass away, psychologically of the utmost importance is a will. You see, many people ask the Prophet, before he passed away, he never wrote a will. No, Rasulullah wrote a will. Amir al-Mu'min executed his will. They say, yes, but I thought he was prevented from writing that will. That will wasn't a will of possessions. It was a will of advice. And a will of advice, what was Rasulullah indicating to us? When he said, give me a pen and paper so I will write for you what you will not go astray. It wasn't wajib on Rasulullah to write that. He had already said it. It was more of a case that I want to write advice for you as a community. That I leave behind for you. Likewise, as a father, I have to know that before I leave this world, I should write a will. In this will, I have to write, my sons, I never want to know that one of you one day will not talk to the other because of money. Isn't it? You find how many today don't talk to each other because of this reason? Therefore, number one, Nabi Yaqub highlighted, a father has a major role in making sure that disunity in the family doesn't happen. But then the question arises, why were these brothers, why were they willing to plot against Yusuf? There's one disease which is the cause of all plots between brothers and disunity in the family. Which is it? The disease of envy. Isn't it? How many families do you know? How many do you know? One brother doesn't talk to the other because of envy. As in, if you go to any world religion today, you'll find any world religion will look down at envy. Buddhism, Gautam Buddha used to say that if you want peace of mind, then do not be of those who are envious. In Christianity, one of the 7 deadliest sins is what? Envy. You find in every religion, likewise Jesus son of Mary, what would he say? Love is kind, love is patient, and love does not involve envy. You found the religion of Islam, when it came to talking about brothers and sisters, it didn't say all envy is bad. Please understand this delicate ethical point. The religion of Islam is the only religion which said there is good envy and there is bad envy. Christianity says all envy is bad. Buddhism says all envy is bad. Islam said no. There is some envy between brothers is good. There is some envy which is bad. What do we mean? Our Imams say the good type of envy between brothers is what they would call ghibta. Imam would say, Al-mu'minu yaghbitu wa la yahsid. A mu'min has ghibta and not hasad. Ghibta, what does it mean? Ghibta is if my brother's richer than me. It happens. Sometimes your brother is wealthier than you. Your brother has the fast car. He has the big house. He may even have the beautiful wife. You find that your brother has all of these things. And he's always had the looks. And he's always had the education. And you're the one who never got the looks or the education or anything like that. Ghibta, what does it mean? Ghibta is when I look at my brother and I say, MashaAllah, that he got given all of these. Ya Allah, give him more and give me as much as him. When I have a brother who's done well, how could I have in my heart anything but ghibta? Ghibta, according to the Imam, is a good form of envy. That if I see a brother of mine, who when we were young, we were like this with each other. And now he's got older and I've got older. Suddenly he had a break in his business. He flourished as a millionaire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with me? No, he didn't make me flourish as a millionaire. Should I look at my brother and say, you know what, the fact that this guy's become a millionaire, let's try and find a way of bringing him down. It can affect me. Quran said what? إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لِلْإِنسَانِ عَدُوٌ. Nabi Yaqub said to Yusuf, he said, the shaitan, when he starts whispering things, I don't care if you two brothers were best friends, he'll make you hate each other, isn't it? You found Imam said what? Imam said, Al-mu'min yaghbitu wa la yahsid. A mu'min has ghibta. If he sees something good in another mu'min, straight away says, MashaAllah, my brother, you've done so well. If a sister sees her sister has married someone who's done brilliant, and you've married someone who hasn't done too well, should I look at my sister's life and say, how did she reach that level where she got a husband like that and I never? No. Ghibta is what? Ghibta is I look at my sister and I say, Alhamdulillah, I'm so happy that she's happy. Ya Allah, make us as happy as them. That's why Mu'alla ibn Khunay's companion of Imam al-Sadiq, salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, Mu'alla used to say, we used to have ghibta on Ja'far al-Sadiq. We used to be envious of Ja'far al-Sadiq. Someone would think when you read we used to be envious of Ja'far al-Sadiq, it means it's bad. No. We used to say, MashaAllah, Imam al-Sadiq, look at the level he's reached in the eyes of the people. Ya Allah, let his level rise and let us reach that level as well. So Mu'alla said, one day we wanted to come and see how did he reach that level. He said, in the middle of the night, I saw Imam al-Sadiq leave his house. When I saw him leave his house, I saw him walking with a big bag of bread. He said he's walking and there are poor people in the streets. He gives bread to each poor person. He said one moment the bread fell. When it fell, I couldn't take seeing Sayyidi wa Mawlai, Ja'far ibn Muhammad, picking up the bread. So I ran and I picked up the bread. He said, Mu'alla, what are you doing here? He said, oh Imam al-Sadiq, I'm sorry, but I have ghibta towards you, a good envy. He said, what do you mean? He said, I see how Allah has raised you. And I say, Ya Allah, raise Ja'far bin Muhammad more and raise me as well. He said, Ya Imam, I saw the bread fall, I couldn't bear it, I picked it up. Is this bread you're giving it out to our followers? He said, no, I'm giving it out to those who don't even follow me as an Imam. If it was our followers, I'd give them curry with the bread. Subhanallah, no wonder we have so much curry in our majalis. He said, if it was our followers, I'd give them curry with the bread. He said, but our followers, not our followers, if they are poor, we go out to help them. Mu'alla, what did he highlight? Mu'alla highlighted, if me and my brother, I'm for example 30, and my younger brother is 20, and I see all of a sudden my younger brother had a business moment where he's shut up, I'm older than him. Sometimes shaitan will whisper, hold on a minute, how's this guy who's younger than you got that far? Go and finish him, finish his reputation. Don't even have relations with his family. Leave him. Whereas no, I should be looking at him and what should I say? Ya Allah, you know what you've done for him? Alhamdulillah. Give me that as well. Let us both share of your rizq, isn't it? You found that first form of hasad, that first form of envy, Allah said is positive. Have it between brothers, there's no problem. But the second form of envy, Allah said, is a disease. And like any disease, beware before it becomes a virus which spreads in your community. What is it? It's the bad envy known as hasad. Hasad. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen used to say, hasad devours someone's faith like fire devours wood. You see how fire finishes wood off straight away? How fire burns the wood? He said, hasad inside you will destroy your iman like fire destroys wood. Because you find a hasad is never comfortable. He's saying La ilaha illallah. He's saying Muhammad Rasulullah. But deep down inside he does not have the heart of Muhammad Rasulullah. Because Imam, what does he say? Al-Iman will never be in what? In a person whose heart has got hasad. Impossible. A person who's envious of his brother simply because his brother has done well, that person has no Iman. His iman is devoured like fire devours wood. And that's why you found Ayatollah al-Khomeini, may Allah bless his soul, on many occasions when he discussed hasad, what would he say? He said, when you come to discuss hasad, you have what? You have al-hasid wal-mahsud. Al-hasid is the envier and al-mahsud is the envied. So he said, why does a person become an envier? He said the reason is out of two things. Either out of pride, and his pride has been hurt. My brother's younger than me and he's become richer than me. My brother's younger than me and he's become more famous than me. My brother's younger than me and he's more liked than me. Your pride is hurt, isn't it? You're like, how could he have more than me? Or Sayyid al-Khomeini says, sometimes out of fear. That sister of mine, imagine if more people get to know her, maybe I don't get the respect she gets. Imagine that sister of mine becomes more popular than me. You start having fear inside you that you're not happy for them anymore. You find Sayyid al-Khomeini says there's a hasad and there's a mahsud. Then he says, but why do they perform hasad? He said sometimes it's because of internal characteristics you may have. Sometimes it's because of external characteristics you may have. What did he mean? He said sometimes you as a brother may look at your brother. When you're looking at him, you see an internal characteristic you're envious of. For example, I see my brother has an internal characteristic like knowledge. Knowledge is not an external characteristic. Knowledge is information imprinted on the soul, isn't it? You find if I see my brother is more knowledgeable than me, hasad begins to affect me, isn't it? I look at my brother and I'm thinking to myself, hold on a minute. The internal characteristic of ilm, it bugs me how he has more ilm than I do. That's on the one hand. Then you have external characteristics which we may become envious because of. Like what? Like you look at your brother, you see him better looking. That's an external characteristic. Wealthier, external characteristic. Sometimes his manners are better to the people, external characteristic. Sayyid al-Khumani used to say, when you look at hasad, ask yourself, am I of those who envies others because of my pride? Or because of a fear of my status? And am I envying because of internal or external characteristics? Why does he say this? He says because Rasulullah on many occasions would warn the people that beware of hasad as a disease in your life. In which way? You find even when Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein was born, as soon as they were born, Fatima al-Zahra, when Rasulullah was next to her, Rasulullah would tell Fatima, recite the following dua with me. Fatima al-Zahra would say what? Say, Ya Rasulullah, why this dua? He said, to ensure envy does not affect Hassan and Hussein. Imagine, Rasulullah, as soon as Hassan and Hussein are born, Rasulullah could say, Ya Allah, increase their rizq. Ya Allah, allow them to become great. No. Ya Allah, remove envy from affecting them. Envy can come from the people in different ways. Either the people physically can be envious, or even sometimes people through their eyes can be envious. Honestly, sometimes a person, when he sees something, you've got it, it's like, oh my God, how did he get that? His eye all of a sudden becomes an eye where the energy which is directed towards you is the worst energy. As in sometimes in this world there is energy we see. Other times there's energy we don't see. Imam Amir al-Mu'minin says, Al-aynu haqqun. The evil eye is a reality in your life. Don't think sometimes when people say, you know, this person must have put eye on you. You say, no, I don't believe in this such things, I and so on. No, Imam Amir al-Mu'minin says, Al-aynu haqq. The power of the eye is a reality. Sometimes be careful that with each other, you two may be the best of friends as brothers. Sometimes, do you know what's breaking you apart? Not you two. Sometimes people are so envious of your relationship, they want to destroy you. Honestly, I've seen brothers who would never separate from each other, the best of friends on this earth. Best of friends. When you'd go ziyarah with them, they'll be joking all night. You go to weddings, they're playing with each other and having the best time. 2 years later, you're like, how's your brother? He's like, I don't know, I think he's alright. What do you mean he's alright? I don't know, we don't talk to each other anymore. You two, who were inseparable. Subhanallah, Nabi Yaqub's words. Inna shaytana lil insani aduwwun mubin. Sometimes shaitan's whispers, and before you know it, what? Us two who are best friends. And brothers and sisters, tonight, I beg all of you, those who aren't getting on with their brothers, patch it up in the name of Abu Fadl al-Abbas and in the name of Qasim. Those of you who are getting on with each other, say to each other, never will we break up whatever happens. Make a pledge to each other. Respect that feeling that is there, because it's a barakah from Allah. You found what? Imam Amir al-Mu'minin said, sometimes people's eye destroys your relationship. You and that brother, if you looked in the mirror, did you ever think you two would not be friends? You two who are like a brick wall. When you do end up, say, Ya Allah, how? Sometimes it's the eye of the people. And that's why the Quran is so clear on hasad. Quran says what? Quran says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقْ وَمِنْ شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبْ وَمِنْ شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ وَمِنْ شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. Ya Allah, protect me from the envy of the envious. When the Quran says this, you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying this because of no reason? Allah is saying you should every morning when you wake up, read the surah. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ until وَحَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. Ya Allah, I seek refuge from the envious when they envy. Because the envious, if they begin to envy you, wallah, there'll be no limit to the way they try and destroy your relationship. No limit. Sometimes when you and your brother have had a bad patch with each other, don't say, oh, it's my brother, he's the reason. No, saying sometimes it's someone outside who's envying us. Maybe because they saw us so close, they're the reason, not me and him. Because if you sometimes reflect on your brother, you'll admit yourself, you know what, he's never like that. He would never behave like that. It must be someone who's put envy on us. And that's why Rasulullah would say, what's the cure for envy? Number one, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ and قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ in the morning. Number two, make sure you put sadaqah in your house before you leave your house. Many times people, because they see everything going well in their life, between them and their brothers, between them and their sisters, they decide to neglect sadaqah. Brothers and sisters, before you leave your house. If it's $1, $5, $10, whatever towards charity, just to remove hasad from attacking your life. Say, Ya Allah, here's sadaqah, so the bala is removed from our life. Therefore, what do you find? You find Nabi Yaqub said to Nabi Yusuf, Ya bunay, la taqsus ru'yaka ala ikhwatika, fayakidu laka kayda, inna ash-shaytana lil-insani aduwwun mubin. And these brothers, it's going to show you how what envy does to those brothers. You saw what those brothers done? Those brothers, what did they do? Those brothers, they came forward and they decided, you know what, this kid, subhanallah, look at the language. And I'm telling you, the language affects us until today. It affects us. This young one, my dad loves him more than me? Are you serious? So my dad left that much for him, not for me? Let's plot a way to finish him. Wallah, those words affect every human until today. Every human. And those of you who know yourself, I don't know who it is. There are some in this hall or those listening around the world. There are some who know very well that it was envy and nothing else which made them ruin their relationship with their brother. They can talk all night, but they know deep down it was because I was always envious of him for this thing. And you found what? You found what they do? They took Nabi Yusuf. Imagine a human being is willing to take his brother. He takes Nabi Yusuf. They took him. They said, today we're going to kill him. One of the brothers came forward and said, what do you mean? Forget killing him. We'll throw him in a well. And when we throw him in a well, what will we do? When we throw him in a well, we eventually will say to our dad that he's been killed. Can you imagine how low the human being becomes? That you're willing to go to another human, your own dad, and say, yes, unfortunately a wolf killed him. That's a low stage. But that shows you how much envy can reach a level where you're willing to see your own blood brother dead. The dad, of course, looked at their shirt. When he looked at the shirt, he said, so this is the proof you have? He said, yes, unfortunately. The wolf devoured him, completely ate him up, and that's the shirt that we have, and all this blood is on it. Nabi Yaqub looked at them and he said, you know, I'm surprised. I've never seen a wolf eat a human being but leave his shirt in good condition. As in, when you make a lie, make it a good lie. Which wolf comes and says, okay, Nabi Yusuf, slowly take your shirt off so I can kill you? No. The wolf will come and devour you. Nabi Yaqub, therefore what? Nabi Yaqub knew. Envy had destroyed the relationship between his brothers. And that's why these brothers were so envious. I tell you, brothers and sisters, their envy didn't stop there. Remember when Binyamin was accused of stealing the cup of Yusuf? Later in the story, when they come to visit Yusuf, and they don't know who Yusuf is. Then Yusuf, it is planned that the cup is in the bag, isn't it? As soon as it's announced that it was stolen by Binyamin, look at the envy, it doesn't stop. They turn around, they say, yes, he had a brother like him who stole when he was younger. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. How envious can you be? Yusuf, you said, died years earlier. The envy still affects you? I tell you, there are some of us, however much you try, that envy is a disease. HIV, AIDS, cancer, diabetes, wallah, envy can make all of them look normal. Envy can say to all of them, move, you can't come like me. I'll stay with the human and I'll destroy his mind. And I'll make him, at least with those you could say they kill you. With envy you could end up killing others as well, isn't it? With envy, it could lead you to killing others. They said he had a brother who stole. Nabi Yusuf never stole. His auntie planted something in him so that the accusation of him stealing would mean he stays with her when he was younger. But the beauty of Nabi Yusuf was what? The beauty of Nabi Yusuf is that he highlights for us an unbelievable example. What does he highlight for us? Nabi Yusuf highlights for us, if your brother has been bad to you, has been rude to you, keep the door of forgiveness open, because Allah never closes his door. Isn't it? My brother has been rude to me. He's been disloyal. His family have been rude to my family. His family. have been rude to my family. His family have been disrespectful. Should I say I'm never going to forgive him? No. Nabi Yusuf, when all of them found out that he was the king, did they look at him and say that, you know what, we have no chance of forgiveness? They said to him, please forgive us for the way we treated you. And how did they treat him? They threw him down a well. They caused him to become a slave. They caused him to become imprisoned. They caused him to be in prison for a long time. As in, would you forgive people who did that to you or no? I don't know about you, but my brother, if he has hurt me, he certainly never led me to prison. If my brother leads me to prison, where I'm sitting with people, I'm a prophet of God, and I'm sitting with people who are the worst people, would I forgive them? When they came, they said to him, we beg you, forgive us for what we have done. He replied back to them, do not worry, there is no fear today. I forgive you for everything that you have done. What did he do? He set a precedent for us, that beware that within your own families, you who were best of friends as brothers when you were younger, beware that when you grow older, that relationship may be destroyed. And that's why we see from the beginning of humanity, you will find that blood brothers, the first crime in humanity was between blood brothers, isn't it? The first crime, Habil and Qabil, wasn't it the first crime? One day brothers, one day sons of a prophet. Today someone may say that I have problems with my sons. Allah tested people greater than you with their sons. Qabil comes to Habil and says to him that لَأَقْتُلَنَّكَ, I will kill you. Habil's reply is fascinating. His reply highlights, if your brother even reaches a stage where he is willing to kill you, you should always try and maintain صِلَةَ الرَّحِمْ with your brother. Even if your brother has disrespect, try and maintain صِلَةَ الرَّحِمْ. What did he reply? قال لئن بسطت إلي يدك لتقتلني ما أنا بباسط يدي إليك لأقتلك. If you come forward to hit me, I will never come forward to hit you. Why? إني أخاف الله رب العالمين. How many of us were insulted by our brother's behavior, isn't it? And don't you always have the wife saying, look at you, you're weak in front of your brother. It happens. Sometimes you have the wife sitting there, talking. You're weak. Your brother's stronger than you. I mean, sit down, calm down. Your brother's stronger than you. Your brother is this, your brother is that. Because they know the sensitive areas to hit us. Your brother is this, your brother is that, your brother is this, your brother is that, your brother is this, your brother. The moment her sister does anything, why are you rude to my sister? Hold on, with my brother you've been attacking me all this time. When your sister does something and I say a little bit, why are you rude to my sister? What do you mean? At the end of the day, what do we find? We find that Islam came forward. What did Islam come forward and say? Habil told Qabil, Wallah, I could hit you, but I fear a day when I have to answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes it's not that we're weak with our brothers. Wallah, sometimes our brothers, when they're rude to us, it's not that we're weak. It's that we know there's a day when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask us, isn't he? There's going to be a day when he's going to say to us that how could you, when I told you be good with your brothers, how could you reply like that? I expected manners from you. I expected the best of respect, and you come back to your brother like that? Habil said to Qabil, Wallah, if you hit me, I could hit you. But I fear a day when my Lord will say to me, why did you show a lack of respect to your brother? Likewise with us in our life. When Habil did this, he highlighted, even if our brothers are bad, Salamu alaykum should still be there, isn't it? Today you have brothers, I'm not saying salam to him. Salam has to remain because it's wajib. When your brother, if you don't like him, you don't like him. But when you say salam, reply wa alaykum salam. Never let it reach a level where there is no salam between brothers. Someone asks, what's the need for this salat al-rahim? Why? What's the point of it? The benefits Muhammad tell us about salat al-rahim are phenomenal. The first benefit, Allah increases your rizq. Whenever we say rizq, someone straight away says, Allah increases my money. No. Rizq, Allah helps you with your health. Allah helps you with your children. Allah helps you with your education. Allah helps you with your wealth. Rizq, number one, Allah increases your rizq. Number two, Allah removes the punishment of the grave from you. And may Allah save us from the questions of Munkar and Nakir. And may Allah save us from the narrowness of that grave. When Abu Hamza al-Thamali is told, why do I not cry? And I know Munkar and Nakir will ask me in my grave. And I see the narrowness. Why should I not cry when I see the darkness of the grave? You find Abu Hamza al-Thamali, what's he saying? You find that the second benefit is the punishment of the grave is removed. When I say Salamu Alaikum or drop an email. When I say Salamu Alaikum or I drop an email, that's the second area of benefit. The third area, what is it? Third area, Allah may increase your life simply because of being good with your brother or with your sister. Someone says, what do you mean? We know Allah has knowledge and Malik al-Maut has knowledge, isn't it? Is Malik al-Maut, the angel of death, is his knowledge the same as Allah? No, that's impossible. If you say Malik al-Maut's knowledge and Allah's knowledge is the same, that means Malik al-Maut should be worshipped. Malik al-Maut has a clipboard with names. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, this person dies at this age, this person dies at this age. Our sixth Imam says, if a person enjoins Salat al-Rahim with his brother or with his sister, Allah may increase his life from what was written for Malik al-Maut by 30 years. Malik al-Maut, all he sees is numbers. If Allah wants to, he'll change that number and say, no, it's not the time. But Imam also says, the one who breaks his relations with his family members, like his brother or sister, Allah may decrease his age by 30 years from what's written. One day a person comes to the seventh Imam, he comes to him, he's come with his brother's not come all the way on the journey. The person arrives to Mecca. Imam Musa ibn Ja'far says to the person, go and get me that person who's arrived in Mecca. The person comes to Imam Musa ibn Ja'far. Imam Musa ibn Ja'far looks at him. Salamu alaykum. Alaykum as-salam. He said, you and your brother were on a journey together towards me? He said, yes. He said, your brother will die next year. Within a year he'll die. He said to him, what do you mean? He said, your brother will die within a year, but your lifespan has been increased by Allah. He said, why? He said, your brother, the abuse he showed you, Allah decided this person shouldn't live any longer. Within a year they'll finish his life. But you were equally not good with your brother, but there's one auntie in your family who you look after. While the whole family has neglected her, you look after. Allah has decided to increase your lifespan. One act like tonight, an email to our brother, a phone call to our brother, a hug to our brother, likewise sister to sister, Allah may decide to increase the lifespan of that human being. And that's why you find Nabi Yaqub, what was the delight for him? Nabi Yaqub went through all the torture seeing his sons, because you think it's easy for a dad to see you brothers quarreling? How many grandfathers have you heard the statement come out from? You people are killing me because of your hatred to each other, isn't it? And on the day of judgment Allah will say, you too caused the death of your mum because of your rudeness to each other. You too are the cause of the death of your dad because of the way you hurt him, the way you behaved with each other. Do not be surprised on the day of judgment if Allah doesn't pick us up for this reason, that our mum or our dad may have died because of our behavior with each other. And you find therefore what? You find Nabi Yaqub cried until he became blind. Even though he knew Nabi Yusuf was alive. He knew Nabi Yusuf was alive. But it killed him as a father to see his sons hating each other. And honestly ask yourself, how many times have you made your dad or hurt your dad because of your behavior as brothers with each other? And how many times have you hurt your dad because of your behavior as sisters to each other? How many of us hurt our mums because when our mums found out we don't talk, our mums' heart broke? Every mosque I've been to in this world, every mosque, same reason. The mum says, you know, they don't talk to each other anymore. I'm 70, they're my boys, they don't talk to each other. And Nabi Yaqub's heart broke. He broke because when he found out that those boys, those sons of his had hurt his son, it hurt him until he became blind. But the beauty of his moment was seeing Nabi Yusuf at the end forgive his brothers. Because to Nabi Yaqub there is no more beautiful sight than brothers who are united with one another. Likewise, what do you find? You find Abu Hamza al-Thamali asks Imam Zain al-Abidin. He says to him, "Oh Imam, years after Karbala, you still cry about those boys at Karbala? You still cry about all those brothers?" Imam Zain al-Abidin said to him, "Oh Abu Hamza, Yaqub cried over Yusuf and Yusuf was alive. I saw my family butchered in front of me on the plains of Karbala. And you know on the 10th of Muharram, you find what type of brothers were present. The most magnanimous of examples of brotherhood. If anyone wanted to ever write a book, he should write a book on the meaning of brotherhood on the 10th of Muharram. As one poet says, Yusuf had 12 brothers, but it's not about the quantity. Hussein had one Abbas. True. Hussein had one Abbas. That's more than enough. Bring me all the brothers, bring me 11 brothers. Like Yusuf had 11, but there's only one Abbas, and that Abbas is fitting. That's one example. Likewise, look at the sons of Imam, look at Awn and Muhammad, like we looked at them yesterday, the sons of Sayyidah Zainab. Look at those two brothers. Look after Karbala, Muhammad and Ibrahim, look how those brothers were when eventually they were beheaded. And likewise, look at the brothers who are the sons of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Imam al-Hasan, 7 sons at Karbala. How many? 7. 7 sons, 7 brothers, all in unison with one another. Not one envied the other. Wallah, the love for each other was phenomenal. And the love for Aba Abdullah especially. Because that's their uncle, that's the apple of their eye. From the youngest until the oldest, they had a love for their uncle which was phenomenal. Do you know one of them, people hardly mention him, his story breaks my heart. One of them was called Abdullah ibn al-Hasan, son of Imam al-Hasan, he's about 10 years old. Aba Abdullah was lying on the ground with arrows all over his body. To the extent one narrator says Imam al-Hussein looked like a hedgehog. That's how many spikes on his body. And Imam al-Hussein tries to put his head up and he falls back. And he tries to put his head up and he falls back. And he tries to go towards his side, but the arrows are all over the body. He can't even sleep properly. And Umar bin Sa'ad turns around to Harmala bin Kahil. He says, Harmala, shoot Hussein on his chest. But use an arrow with poison. You know the arrow he used for the 6-month-old baby? It was the arrow used for a camel. But the arrow for Aba Abdullah, he first put poison all over it, then he raised it back. Abdullah, son of Imam al-Hasan, was in the tent. He's looking from far away. He said, my auntie, what's he doing? Sayyidah Zainab says, I think he's taking an arrow out. He ran out of the tent. He saw his uncle lying on the ground. He said, there's no way any of you will touch my uncle unless you kill me. He sat by Imam al-Hussein and the arrow struck him. Do you know when the arrow struck him, the first thing he did? He turned around to his uncle. He said, my uncle, I'm so sorry, but I couldn't bear to see them torture you. That brother couldn't bear to see these people torture his uncle. The other sons of Imam al-Hasan, all of them were the same. They had a phenomenal love for Aba Abdullah. And that's why you find of all of those sons, the moon of them was Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan. That moon, that brother who was a leader for his brothers. On that day, what was he? He wasn't more than 13 years of age on that day, not more. Yet that young man on that day, his behavior was impeccable. His valiant attitude and his bravery. You found that he came to Aba Abdullah. And as he was walking to Aba Abdullah, he heard Aba Abdullah saying, هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنْصُرُنَا? Is there anyone to come here to help us? You found that as soon as he heard that, he came. And you know what he was doing? He was holding his armor. But his armor was bigger than his body. And he came holding the armor. He said, oh my uncle, I'm here to help you. You said, هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنْصُرُنَا? I'll help you, my uncle. His uncle said to him, no Qasim, no. You are an amana. You are a trust from my brother. There's no way I'll let you fight. Qasim, please. A few minutes later he heard, هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنْصُرُنَا هَلْ مِن مُغِيثٍ يَغِيثُ عَنْ حَرَمِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. Again when he heard this, he came. He said, oh my uncle, I heard you again calling for help. Again I come to you. Again I am the one who's willing to help you. He said to him, my dear Qasim, you are an amana. Listen to Qasim's reply. You say to me that I am an amana, but I want to say to you that you are a wasiyah. He said, what do you mean? He said, I was young when my father died. But my father told the family, look after the stranger of Karbala. Look after Abi Abdullah when he's alone with no one to protect him. You're the wasiyah of my father. I may be an amana, but you're a wasiyah. And my father said, look after Abu Abdullah. Abu Abdullah looked at him again. He said to him, Qasim, please, you're breaking my heart. You're cutting me apart. Qasim went back to the tent. He entered. His mom saw him. She said to him, my darling Qasim, my darling, what's wrong? He said to her, Mom, I asked my uncle to fight, but he doesn't let me. She said to him, why? He said, because he says to me that I'm too young. I should look after my mother. She had a box there. She took out a letter. She said, here, go and show this to your uncle. When he came to his uncle, he showed the letter to his uncle. His uncle opened it. Imam al-Hussein opened it and said, to my brother, the stranger of Karbala, Abi Abdullah. There will be a day when I cannot be present to help you. O Gharib, my sons will represent you. Please allow them to represent you. As soon as Abu Abdullah read that letter, his eyes overflowed with tears. Because any of you who have a brother, imagine you lost your brother. Imagine he's not in your life anymore. Wouldn't your heart break? Especially those of you in this hall who lost a brother. How difficult was it the moment you received the call that your brother died? How difficult was it? It's as if your beacon of light in your life isn't there. You found Imam al-Hussein, looked towards him. He said to him, very well, I'll allow you to fight, but you don't know how hard this is for me. He then came to him and he said to him, come with me in the tent. They opened the tent. Imam al-Hussein opened this box which was in the tent. He took out a turban. He placed it on al-Qasim's head. He took out a robe. He made al-Qasim wear the robe. He then took out a sword. He said, Qasim, hold the sword. Then he said something to him which hurts the most. He said to him, Qasim, go to your auntie Zainab. Ya Aba Abdullah, why are you sending Qasim to Zainab? Why? As soon as he entered upon Sayyida Zainab, as soon as he entered, she looked up. Do you know what she said? She said to him, is that Al-Hasan or is it Qasim? She remembered Imam Al-Hasan. And she looked at him and she said, you do not know how much your uncle, you do not know how it hurts your uncle to see you like this. No, listen to this line. The poets say this line. Nor will you ever know on the night of the 19th of Ramadan, the way your dad looked after me when I had to see my father after he returned from the mosque in Kufa. She remembered Imam Ali. She said to Qasim, Qasim, you'll never know how your dad Al-Hasan looked after me on the 19th of Ramadan. I never had a mother there for me. Qasim, if you knew the night our mother Fatima Zahra died, and your father Imam Al-Hasan was a father to all of us. Your father looked after me and he brought me up and he looked after Kulthum. Every time I look into your eyes, I remember your father when I see you. That man who's alone in Jannat al-Baqi'. How many of you been to Hajj? Have you seen that grave? She let him go. He went towards Abu Abdullah. And he said to him, Ya Abu Abdullah, my uncle, today I'm going to make you proud. Abu Abdullah bid him farewell. Qasim went out onto the battlefield. Do you know every time he'd kill a member of the opposition, he'd turn around to Abu Fadl al-Abbas. He'd turn around, he'd say, oh my uncle Abbas, are you proud of me? My uncle Abbas, I'm honoring you. You're the one who trained me. And Abu Fadl would look at him and he'd cry because he'd know that the young man was alone. The narrations mention that in the midst of the battle he was fighting. The narrations mention 35 of the opposition he killed. 35 of the opposition. Until at that moment, you know what happened, brothers and sisters? At that moment, his shoe got caught in the stirrup of the horse. So when his shoe got caught, it fell on the ground. As it fell, the horse didn't know which way to go. The horse went one way, the horse went the other. He fell from the horse onto the ground. Ammar bin Sa'd, all of a sudden, what did he say? Ammar bin Sa'd called out, "All soldiers, go and attack the young boy on the ground." The soldiers, all of them, ran towards his body. They began to hit him one way. They began to hit him on another. At that moment, he called out the line, "Ya Ammar, oh my uncle. Aghithni ya Aba Abdullah. Oh my uncle, I beg you, come to help me." Aba Abdullah came towards Qasim's body. When he came by Qasim's body, listen to the words that he recited when he sat by the body. He said to him, "Oh my dear nephew, it hurts me that you call me, but that I couldn't answer you. It hurts me that I answered you, but I couldn't help you. Oh my nephew, it hurts me that I helped you, but my help was of no avail to you." Now listen to what the poet say. He said, he looked at him and he said, "Oh my nephew, whenever I saw you smile, I remembered your father all the time. Oh my nephew, when I saw you smile, I remembered your father. Oh my nephew, do you know when my mother Fatima Zahra died? It was your father who protected me and looked after me." Imam al-Hussein, you know what he did? He took out a robe. Question, why would Imam al-Hussein take out a robe? To collect the pieces of the body of Qasim. There were pieces scattered all on the ground. Imam al-Hussein picked up this robe and picked up Qasim. When he returned, he laid Qasim on the ground. When he returned, he laid Qasim on the ground. Do you know who came to the ground? Ruqayya. Ruqayya came. Oh, lovers of Ruqayya, those of you who've been to Sham. Ruqayya came. She didn't know what was happening. She called out, "Oh my cousin Qasim, this is not a time to sleep on the ground." What do you say to a 4-year-old? What do you say to her? Zainab, 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 Zainab. Zainab looked at Imam al-Hussein. She said to him, "I see that you bought him, but what do you have in your robe that you're hiding?" He said to her, "I have the pieces of the body of Qasim in this robe." May Allah bless those mothers who are here tonight. Those mothers, Ramla and Layla, were in the tent. Qasim's body was on one side, Ali al-Akbar's body on the other. But they didn't cry. They didn't cry. Sayyidah Zainab walked towards Imam al-Hussein. She said to him, "Aba Abdullah, can you leave?" He said to her, "Why?" She said, "Because they will not cry, because they fear it may hurt you if they cry." Abu Abdullah, when he left the tent, the mothers jumped on their sons' bodies. Raise your hands. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us with Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam and with his son Qasim. Ya Allah, allow us to rebuild the grave of Imam al-Hasan. Brothers and sisters, 13 million people go to Karbala while Imam Hassan is alone. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us with Imam al-Hassan and with Imam al-Hussein. Allow us to receive the intercession of our Imam Sahib al-Asr wa al-Zaman. allow us to be amongst those who follow his message in this world and the hereafter. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the Surah Al-Fatiha, but before it, the loudest of your salah.
Lovers of the holy house sound our claim, emulating their example our aim. Lovers of the holy house sound our claim, emulating their example our aim. Living like Ali and struggling like Hussein is the key if paradise we wish to gain. See the pain, see the pain, see the pain, see the pain.